The capture. The void of space was silent. It always was. But silence didn't mean safety. Ethan Cross knew that lesson well enough. Yet he still pushed his little freighter too close to the Porcian border. He told himself it was curiosity, maybe a bit of arrogance. The truth? He was bored. A man alone in the black can start making stupid choices just to feel alive. The choice became regret when the alarm screamed. A massive shadow swallowed his vessel, blotting out the stars. His ship's panels flickered as a tractor beam locked on, pulling him in. The hull groaned under the force, powerless against the gravity grip of the Porcian dreadnought. Ethan leaned back in his chair, watching his inevitable capture with the same expression one might were waiting for a kettle to boil. When the docking clamps sealed and the hiss of an atmosphere transfer filled the air, Ethan muttered to himself, "Well, Ethan, you did say you wanted some company." The hatch blew open with a violent hiss. Figures stormed in, towering, grotesque silhouettes that could have walked out of a nightmare. They were Porcians, a species as infamous as they were ridiculous. Their bodies were thick, human-like, with powerful limbs, but their faces were pig snouts twisted into permanent sneers. Their eyes were small and cruel, their tusk-lined mouths dripping with contempt. One of them barked in a guttural language, and a translator disc on its chest spat out the words in a rough monotone. "Human, you are a prisoner of the Porcian Empire. Resist and die." Ethan raised his hands slowly. "Well, that's an inviting welcome. Do you guys rehearse this, or does it come naturally?" The Porcian leader shoved him against the wall with a meaty hand. Their claws dug lightly into his jacket, not enough to pierce skin, but enough to send the message. "You are nothing here." Ethan's response was a sigh, as though inconvenienced more than threatened. They bound his wrists in magnetic cuffs and marched him through metallic corridors that reeked faintly of ammonia and sweat. The ship's architecture was brutal. No ornament, no softness, just steel floors and jagged walls designed to intimidate. Porcians laughed as they passed, their squealing snorts echoing in the halls. "Look at the fragile thing," one grunted. "Soft skin, weak frame. They say humans break easy." Ethan offered a smirk. "Careful, I bruise like a peach. Wouldn't want to damage your prize catch." They shoved him again, this time harder. His head knocked against the wall, and he tasted copper. Still, his smile didn't fade. Finally, they dragged him into what looked like an interrogation chamber. Harsh white lights beat down from above, reflecting off the steel floor. A semicircle of Porcians surrounded him, their sneers widening as they studied their newest acquisition. The commander stepped forward. Taller than the rest, with scars running across his snout, he radiated arrogance. He looked Ethan up and down, then spat a glob of saliva at his feet. "This is the creature who trespassed into Porcian territory? Pathetic." Ethan sat on the floor, legs crossed, head resting lazily on his hand. "Pathetic? I don't know, Commander Bacon. That scar across your face doesn't exactly scream unbeatable warrior." A ripple of laughter moved through the younger Porcians, quickly silenced by the commander's glare. He snarled, nostrils flaring. "You are foolish, human. You speak as though you have power here. You have none. You are meat." Ethan shrugged. Meat talks too, apparently. The Porcians didn't know what to make of him. Most captives screamed, begged, or tried futile resistance. This one? He sat there, mocking them with words sharper than blades. The commander stepped closer until his hot, foul breath washed over Ethan's face. "You will learn fear. All humans do." For a moment, their eyes locked, beady black against sharp gray. Ethan didn't blink. He didn't cower. If anything, his smirk widened just enough to unsettle the alien further. "Maybe," Ethan said softly, "but not today." The commander snarled and ordered him dragged away. As they pulled him toward the holding cells, Ethan leaned back in their grip as though going for a casual stroll. He studied the Porcian faces around him, their grins, their arrogance, their certainty. They thought they had one. They thought he was nothing more than a foolish human who stumbled too far from home. Ethan kept his thoughts to himself, but deep down, a spark of anticipation lit in his chest. They had no idea what they had just brought aboard. And by the time they discovered it, it would be far too late. The experiments. The Porcians believed in breaking their prisoners early. Fear was their favorite tool, cruelty their craft. Ethan Cross, however, seemed immune to both. He sat in the middle of a steel chair, wrists still magnetically cuffed, as Porcian scientists circled him with their instruments. The lab was cold, reeking of antiseptic and sweat, lined with glowing consoles and ominous racks of tools. Human physiology is frail. One Porcian snorted, tapping notes into a data slate. Soft flesh, no claws, no armor. Barely more than vermin. Ethan tilted his head, deadpan. And yet here I am, ruining your Saturday night. The scientist blinked, confused, before looking away with a grunt. The first test was simple: endurance. They strapped electrodes to Ethan's chest, cranking pulses of electricity through his body. The current surged, making his muscles seize, but Ethan clenched his teeth and forced himself to breathe through the pain. His captors leaned forward eagerly, expecting screams. They got a chuckle instead. Really? That's it? I've had hangovers worse than this. You guys need to upgrade your gear. The Porcians exchanged uneasy glances. Most species begged within seconds. This human mocked them. The second test was poison. A vial of viscous green liquid was forced down his throat while the commander observed from behind a barrier. Ethan coughed, gagged, then leaned back in his chair, eyes watering. His body trembled, and for a moment the scientists thought they had one, until he started laughing. Tastes like cheap tequila, he wheezed. You sure this is poison? Maybe you just raided your ship's bar. The toxin should have burned through his organs. Instead, Ethan's body flushed it out faster than their instruments could track. His cells adapted, neutralizing the compound as though it were nothing more than spoiled food. The lead scientist frowned, tapping furiously at his console. His resistance is anomalous. His metabolism is shifting in real time. The commander's ears twitched. Explain. He is adapting. Rapidly. His blood chemistry has already changed. This should not be possible. Ethan smirked, his voice rasping. Don't take it personally. Earth cuisine prepares you for all sorts of nasty surprises. Ever eaten gas station sushi? The Porcians ignored him, moving on to the third test, psychological pressure. The lights dimmed, and the walls around him shifted into holographic projections of fire, screaming faces, and images designed to crush weaker minds. Alien wails echoed in the darkness. Ethan stared, unimpressed. You're trying to freak me out with bad CGI? I've seen scarier cutscenes in old horror games. When the hologram shifted to a grotesque swarm of monstrous teeth and claws rushing toward him, Ethan actually yawned. Wow, terrifying. You guys should hire better special effects artists. The Porcians grew agitated. One of them slammed a clawed fist onto the console. Why does he not break? The lead scientist's snout twitched nervously. I do not know. His neural activity is irregular. It rises under stress, not collapses. It's as if fear strengthens him. The commander leaned forward, glaring at Ethan through the glass. What are you? Ethan looked him dead in the eye and grinned. I'm just a guy from Earth. You picked the wrong tourist. The test continued. Blades nicked his skin. He healed faster than expected. Extreme cold should have shut down his body. He endured it with shivers, but no surrender. A gravity chamber tripled his weight. He staggered, then adapted, his muscles compensating. Every time they pushed, Ethan pushed back harder. By the end of the cycle, the Porcians were not laughing anymore. The scientists gathered in whispers around their consoles, their faces tight with unease. Charts and graphs scrolled across screens, showing Ethan's body shifting like a living weapon. This is no ordinary human, one muttered. His DNA, it is built for survival. Adaptation rates beyond anything we've seen. The commander's tusks glinted under the harsh lights. Then dissect him. Rip him apart. Find the source of this anomaly. For the first time, Ethan's smirk faltered. Not out of fear, but out of calculation. He had played their game long enough. Dissect me, he said, his voice low. That's a bold move, pork chop. But here's the thing. He leaned forward as far as his cuffs allowed, gray eyes glinting with something dangerous. You can't dissect what you can't contain. The portions froze. There was no desperation in his tone, no pleading, only certainty. And for the first time since Ethan had been dragged aboard, a ripple of unease spread through the room. The commander looked into the human's calm, mocking face and felt a cold twist in his gut. This was no foolish prey. This was something else, something that didn't know how to break. And deep down, every portion in that lab began to suspect the same terrible truth. They hadn't captured a human. They had trapped a predator. The awakening, the restraints should have held him. Forged from alloy strong enough to shackle war beasts twice his size, the magnetic cuffs were considered unbreakable. But the portions hadn't accounted for what stress did to a human body, especially one already adapting faster than their instruments could track. Ethan felt it before the scientists did. A strange hum beneath his skin, every nerve firing like a live wire. His pulse pounded, not in panic, but in rhythm, steady, focused, almost hungry. The latest experiment was meant to exhaust him. They had pumped the chamber full of noxious gas, a corrosive mist that should have shredded his lungs within minutes. Instead, Ethan's chest burned once, twice, and then adjusted. Each breath came easier, his body filtering, healing, reconfiguring. And with that breath came strength. The cuffs hissed and sparked as his muscles flexed. Metal groaned. A Porcian technician looked up just in time to see the impossible, the restraints snapping apart like brittle twigs. What? Ethan was already moving. He slammed one broken cuff into the nearest Porcian's snout, sending the alien sprawling with a squeal. Alarms erupted, red lights bathing the chamber in a hellish glow. Scientists scrambled for weapons, but Ethan was faster, his body responding like a predator unleashed. The second Porcian raised a shock baton. Ethan ripped it from his grip and drove it into his chest. The alien convulsed, tusks chattering as smoke curled from his nostrils, then crumpled. Ethan stood in the chaos, chest heaving, eyes sharp. For the first time, there was no smirk on his lips, just focus. The commander's voice crackled over the intercom. Contain him. Kill the human now. But it was already too late. Ethan moved through the corridor like a shadow. His body adapted to the ship's gravity shifts, his ears tuned to the squeals of soldiers scrambling in panic. Every Porcian he encountered fell, sometimes with a strike, sometimes with a chokehold, sometimes with nothing more than their own weapons turned against them. The ship was his hunting ground now. A squad of Porcians rounded a corner, plasma rifles ready. Ethan ducked behind a bulkhead as their shots scorched the walls. He counted the rhythm of their fire, then slipped low and fast, closing the distance before they could recalibrate. He wrenched a rifle free, jammed it under one soldier's chin, and pulled the trigger. The corridor lit with searing light. The others hesitated. That hesitation was death. Ethan was already among them, striking with brutal precision. When the smoke cleared, 3 more bodies littered the hall, and Ethan stood unscathed, rifle slung casually over his shoulder. For the first time, real fear spread among the Porcians. Their prisoner was not prey. He was the predator, and he was enjoying the hunt. The commander watched from the control chamber, his tusks grinding together. Monitors displayed carnage across the decks. His soldiers, warriors bred for domination, squealed like frightened livestock as the human cut through them with terrifying ease. This should not be possible, one scientist stammered, trembling over his console. His physiology, it's rewriting itself under combat stress. He is becoming more dangerous the longer we fight him. The commander's throat rumbled with rage. He is one human. We are Porcians, conquerors of 20 systems. Do you fear a hairless ape? But even as he spoke, doubt gnawed at him. Every time the human appeared on the monitors, his movements were sharper, his strikes more efficient, his eyes colder. He was evolving before their very eyes. Ethan moved silently now, his bare feet padded against steel, his breathing controlled. The ship's corridors were a maze, but he navigated them with predatory instinct, listening for every grunt, every squeal of his pursuers. A pair of Porcians searched the engine deck. Their hooves clanged on the grated floor, weapons raised. "Where is he?" one muttered. A voice came from the shadows. "Right behind you." They spawned too late. Ethan lunged from the dark, his hand snapping one soldier's neck before the other could fire. He caught the second's rifle barrel, twisted, and drove it back into his chest. The alien's squeal cut short as he fell. Ethan crouched over the bodies, expression unreadable. He wasn't killing for pleasure. He was killing because survival demanded it. But deep inside, some primal part of him relished the reversal. The mighty Porcians, who laughed at his weakness, now squealed in fear like pigs to slaughter. He rose, gripping the stolen rifle, eyes scanning the shadows. "Not so foolish now," he muttered to no one. In the control chamber, the commander's hands shook as he watched his soldiers fall. He barked orders, desperate now. "Seal the bulkheads. Vent the airlocks if you must. He cannot be allowed to reach us." But a chill ran down his spine. He realized the truth too late. The human wasn't trying to escape. The human was hunting his way toward the command deck. The regret. The Porcian command deck was in chaos. Red lights pulsed overhead, alarms blaring in a shrill chorus that echoed through every corridor. The scent of ozone and blood clung to the air. The commander stood at the center of it all, tusks glistening with spittle, rage warring with fear in his small dark eyes. Around him, officers squealed frantically at consoles, locking doors, sealing hatches, venting compartments into the void. None of it stopped the inevitable. The human was coming. Every monitor told the same story. Decks littered with bodies, squads wiped out in seconds, corridors painted with the aftermath of his advance. He wasn't just fighting. He was dismantling the Porcian dreadnought piece by piece, as if the ship itself had become his hunting ground. And then silence. The commander's ears twitched. The alarms still howled, but the gunfire, the squeals, the chaos outside gone. He realized what it meant. The human was here. The doors to the command deck groaned. Sparks spat from the edges as something pried them apart with steady, patient force. Porcian soldiers raised their rifles, squealing in panic. The commander barked at them to hold steady, but his voice cracked. The doors tore open. Ethan Cross stepped through. He was smeared with soot and blood, shirt ragged, gray eyes burning cold. The rifle in his hands hummed with stolen alien energy, but he carried it casually, as if it were already unnecessary. His posture was relaxed, almost bored, yet the tension in the room snapped taut at his presence. The Porcian soldiers opened fire. Plasma bolts streaked across the chamber. Ethan moved with inhuman precision, rolling behind a console, springing forward, striking with brutal efficiency. Within seconds, the soldiers were down, some broken, some burned by their own ricocheting fire. Silence returned, heavier this time. Only the commander remained, frozen at his console, tusks grinding together in dread. Ethan walked toward him, slow, deliberate. Each step echoed like a hammer on an anvil. The commander rasped, voice trembling. "What are you?" Ethan stopped a few feet away. He tilted his head, considering the question, then smiled faintly. "Just a foolish human. At least, that's what you told yourselves." The commander's nostrils flared. "Humans are weak, fragile, prey. That is what the Empire teaches." "Yeah," Ethan said softly, stepping closer. "That's what you all think, because you've never been to Earth. You've never seen what it takes to survive there. Our storms, our predators, our wars. Fear doesn't break us. Pain doesn't stop us. We adapt. We endure. And when someone tries to cage us," his voice dropped to a whisper sharp enough to cut, "we hunt." The commander stumbled back, his bulk colliding with the console. Desperation replaced arrogance. "Spare me. You want freedom? Take it. Take the ship. Just leave me alive." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "You had no mercy for the ones you captured. How many humans have you dragged into these ships? How many never came back?" The commander squealed, sweat dripping down his porcine brow. We did not know. We thought you were harmless." Ethan leaned close until their faces were inches apart, his calm gaze locking onto the commander's panicked eyes. And now you regret finding out the truth. The commander tried to speak, but the words choked in his throat. Ethan pulled the rifle's trigger. The blast tore through the Porcian's chest, throwing his massive body backward into the console. Sparks rained down, alarms cutting off in a hiss of dying power. The commander slid to the floor, lifeless, tusks cracked against steel. Silence. Ethan stood alone in the command deck, chest heaving, smoke curling from the rifle's barrel. Slowly, he lowered the weapon, letting it clatter to the floor. He turned to the central console, hands moving with quick precision. Within minutes, he had overridden the ship's systems, unlocking every prisoner cell aboard. Voices echoed faintly through the ship, shocked, relieved, disbelieving. Humans and other species stumbled free, staring in awe at the man who had brought the Porcian dreadnought to its knees. Ethan didn't give a speech. He simply nodded to them, his expression weary but resolute. "You're free. Get to the escape shuttles. I'll handle the rest." They obeyed. Later, as the last shuttle launched from the dreadnought's belly, Ethan remained aboard, standing at the viewport. The Porcian vessel drifted silent and broken, stripped of command, its soldiers dead or fled. He keyed in one last command, a self-destruct sequence that would erase the ship from existence. The Porcian Empire would never recover its prized dreadnought. As the countdown ticked, Ethan whispered to himself, voice low and certain. They thought they captured a foolish human. But they'll remember this. All of them will. The shuttles cleared the blast radius. The Porcian dreadnought blossomed into a fireball that lit the void, scattering fragments into the endless dark. Somewhere across the galaxy, the story would spread. The tale of the Porcians who captured a human and learned, too late, that deathworld predators do not forgive cages. And Ethan Cross, drifting among the stars in a stolen shuttle, allowed himself a tired smile. The galaxy had underestimated humanity. Now it would never forget them.